New data revealed this morning suggests that Nancy Pelosi was not being particularly forthcoming about how much progress has been reached on your second stimulus deal. The new report says that her and Steve Mnuchin have actually done very little this week, even though she said there was very close, imminent, near 48 hours. The report claims that the two have barely done much of anything in the last week. And get this. That many of the deal items that we thought were actually agreed upon aren't even closer than they were since July. This is the shocking news, and this is 28. Hey, good morning, everyone. With just days before the election, the question is when and where will there be a second stimulus deal, or will there be much of nothing? And when will the president wake up and send a second stimulus by executive order? You saw the debate last night, but this morning, breaking news that suggests that you're about to have your jaw drop as someone has not been forthcoming to you. Go to the Fun's channel, subscribe, because I cut through all the mud and I get to the detail and hopefully find a diamond for you at the end of the rough. Also, like this video. In this video, I'll be going over the shocking new report issued minutes ago that says that Nancy Pelosi's claims of imminent, short, close, near, around the corner, next to me, sort of there and right here have actually not been true. The report claims that the parties have barely even spoken, let alone even worked, and that the claim that the subcommittees were writing on the bill over the last few days is also untrue. You wonder why I was wondering where's the bill when they said they've been writing all week long? And the new report suggests that no one knows much of what's going on, in fact, as well. Added to misery is the following detail, which I had certainly tipped off to you in recent days, that Republicans have not been briefed whatsoever about what's going on and are finding out details about the bill from the press and from this channel. Apparently, no one's even knowing what's going on in the negotiations unless you're in the room with the negotiators. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news as we sit here this morning is that the president's just days away from the election, and the attempt to get a second stimulus deal may be either a farce or maybe a wishful hope, but it's certainly not what has been portrayed to you. I said portrayed to you in recent days. The new report out today from CNN says that in recent days, the parties have barely even spoken, they have barely even worked, and that the parties that would ultimately vote on the bill have not been debriefed about the situation and are barely knowing what's going on. Even worse, it says, can it get worse than that? Even worse, it says that there was really no progress on any numbers in recent days. All right, let's get to the breaking details. So the breaking details is that the last briefing on numbers, per se, from Steve Mnuchin came. Now we're approaching, I think it would be 2 weeks or 3 weeks this weekend. That was that press release with his name on it on White House stationery that had Mark Meadows co-signing the letter and said, here are the deal items and this is where we are. $1,200 check for adults, all adults, $1,000 check for children, and FPUC has and all those other elements were hazard pay not included, but $400 for FPUC per week to mid-January. We had some details, we had some numbers. It was finally reassuring. So at that point, we certainly knew that all adults were going to get a $1,200 check. If you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and Railroad benefits, you would get a check. You would get the check now. There could be the possibility for other checks, but this would be the check for now. Now, I know we're owed a lot of checks, but at least we would get one check for $1,200 if we're an adult and $1,000 if we're a child. This was categorically incredible because it was more than the Temple of Doom was providing in her plan. Now, in recent days, Mark Meadows said the president would go higher. The president was offering more money for stimulus checks, more, higher, but we were never given a number. The last time we were actually given a number was that press release. Well, This week came and literally was a narrative every single step of the way. We were told on Monday there was going to be a deal by 48 hours, by Tuesday, and a deadline, or they were stop negotiating. Then they said there was no such deadline. Then they said within 48 hours, which is today, they would have a deal reached, and that the bill would be ready to be introduced and voted upon as law. Then last night they said, oh, we haven't even started writing. What do you mean? You have 3,000 page bills. I mean, you're just cutting a little bit out of the 3,000 page bill. You don't have to rewrite 3,000 pages again. Needless to say, CNN spoke to a few people overnight, and those few people close to the negotiation says everything that we've been told is not true. Oh my goodness. First of all, there's some of the quotes on the record, and there's some of them off of the record. Some of them sourced, and some of them they're anonymous sourced. Senate Appropriations Committee Dick Shelby, an Alabama Republican, told reporters last night, "It could always be a miracle that it becomes a law, but not very many around here believe it's going to be voted upon before election night." Multiple GOP aides, this is now off the record, told CNN last night that House committee members might be reaching out to lay out their priority, but no one's actually sitting in the room or getting on the phone and actually going over the bill provisions right now. Oh, do you see the smoke coming out of my nostrils? Do you see my eyes turning bloodshot red? Do you see like the fangs coming out of my teeth? We have been told for days they were working on the language. Remember the one video in the afternoon where I opened it with the comment of one of the viewers, because it was so funny, that the viewer said, "I'm tired of hearing Nancy say she's working on the language of the bill and drafting the language of the bill. I have some language to give Nancy Pelosi." Remember that video I opened up with? Well, that's because Nancy Pelosi said all week long, we're drafting the bill, we're drafting the bill, we're drafting the bill. And Mark Miller says, we're drafting the bill, we're drafting the bill. Then yesterday, Nancy Pelosi says, well, it's going to take some time to draft the bill. You said all week long you've been drafting the bill. Well, CNN now says they've not been working at all on drafting the bill. In other words, bipartisan, bicameral conversations aren't driving anything right now. Okay. The tea leaves. After several days in a row of talks between Pelosi and Mnuchin, Pelosi's spokesperson gave no readout or briefing of the conversation yesterday. Pelosi said they were trading papers back and forth with massive sticking points still outstanding. The principals don't appear to have their regular afternoon phone call at all. Lord. And it gets worse as the article progresses. It basically says, as we sit here today, Pelosi and Mnuchin may have been dangling a carrot over our head that was actually not even a carrot. Maybe it was like a fake carrot. It was like a prop carrot, like a rubber carrot. The report claims that the parties may not have actually agreed to anything in this last week of so-called almost there imminent stuff. The point is that none of this is going to get easier after the election. It gets harder. What's left to negotiate? Here's what CNN says. What's left to negotiate? Everything. Spoiler alert. Everything. Staying local. Everything. Liability protection. Everything. Testing, tracing, funding. Oh, that was apparently done last week. No, it's not. Unemployment insurance. Oh, FPUC is not agreed to. So there we go. I told you for the last 7 days, why have they not been talking about FPUC? Why have they not been talking about FPUC? Every time they don't talk about something, I presume there's some strange thing going on. Remember, he's at $400 a week, she's at $600 a week. She has categorically refused to move from $600 a week since the pandemic started. The problem solvers are at $450 for 8 weeks and 5 weeks at $600 a week. So guess what? No agreement on FPUC either. Educational funding. Pelosi said Thursday there still wasn't a deal on several major sticking points. It's the tell that these negotiations over the last week may be positive, but they aren't yielding an outcome. Not yielding an income either. Well, they're making money, Pelosi's making a salary. They aren't yielding an outcome. The report claims that they're not doing much of anything. The topics that consumed hours-long meetings in July and August haven't still been even dealt with. They haven't even talked about them. Both sides remain divided on lots of issues. Bottom line is, I think you get the point at this point of the video. You have been sold fake goods by these two people. Steve Mnuchin, shame on you. Nancy Pelosi, shame on you. Millions of Americans really were expecting stimulus relief. Millions of Americans thought that there was a stimulus relief around the corner. Millions of Americans needed unemployment assistance and needed stimulus checks. And they were said by you multiple times this week that we're on the cusp of getting the deal. The deal is going to be reached in 24 hours, 48 hours, 48 hours, 48 hours, 48 hours, three times. Now it reveals that's not even 48 days, let alone 48 months away from a deal. It's really unexplainable, and it's really heartless that someone would have gone to this level to simply be untruthful to the American people and to be untruthful to news reporters. So we have to report your fake news to people on the presumption that we believe that what you're saying to us is true. So as we sit here today, everything that Nancy Pelosi has said to us in the last 7 days has been a lie. Yeah. Really, I mean, at this point, you're probably ready to just pick up your phone and throw it out the window. You're probably as pissed as I am as well. As a reporter that's trying to report you news, it's my job to give you what the person is saying accurately. And every time someone that says a false statement to the press, it makes it very difficult because we don't know what to report. Do we just never report what Nancy Pelosi says going forward because everything she's saying is untrue? Do we never report what Steve Mnuchin's saying going forward because so many times he said the deal's coming by the end of the week, the deal's coming next week, the deal's coming on Tuesday, the deal's coming on Wednesday? It becomes a point after a few times that you say, okay, how many times have you been untruthful with the narrative updates of where you are? And that ultimately, talking about vague statements and not talking about numbers is the indicative selling point of why there is potentially no deal with you. So as we sit here today, let's refocus. You and me, let's take it down a notch. I'm sure you're revved up. It's at the 10-minute mark. I have a lot still stuff coming up. Let's take it down a notch because where we are here is not where we want to be. We don't want to be angry. We don't want to be pissed off. We don't want to be revved up. And we don't want to think nothing about nothing because ultimately that's what these people like to do. So let's recap and let's refocus. The focus is really on the president. No one feels the heat more than the president right now to send out stimulus. And ironically, that is where you have to push. Joe Biden doesn't feel heat. He's not elected. He's just, running a campaign and, doing what he's got to do. And if he doesn't win, he doesn't win. And if he wins, then you know what? Well, he's there for 4 years, and so you can't kick him out. He's there, and he can do much of nothing, but he's there. Nancy Pelosi, she doesn't really care. She's going to get reelected, and she might retire, and she has no heat. Steve Mnuchin, he has a lot of money. If Trump is gone, then Mnuchin's gone. If Trump is reelected, then Mnuchin's there for 4 more years. He has no heat. None of these people have any pressure upon them, so they really don't have any pressure to do anything, with the exception of one man, the president. All the pressure is on him. He's behind in the polls. He's behind in the race. He is not doing well on economic numbers. He's not among voters. He's not doing well on key issues. So this is the time whenever to push with the purple power. The new data revealed in the last 24 to 48 hours reveals the president is not leading in the swing states. The vast majority of the swing states he is behind. And in some of the swing states, he's behind more than 1 or 2 percentage points, more than the margin of error. What's important to understand that is that ultimately, if you look at a lot of these polls, 1, 2, 3, 4, none of them shows him ahead in all the polls of the swing states. All of them show him either ahead in 2 of the states and the rest behind, or ahead in none of the states. And so with that, he needs an executive order. He needs an October surprise. He needs positive news. Where the president's going to attempt to win this election is pulling in undecided voters. There actually are voters who are still not decided between Trump and Biden. And while some reporters like Donald are like, how can someone have not made up their mind yet? There really are people who have not made up their mind yet. And those people are ultimately the ones that Trump has to win over. And how do you win them over? A stimulus check. And not just any stimulus check, a really nice stimulus check. A $4,000 stimulus check. If you watch morning's LALATE, I had a little bit of that debate exchange between Joe and Donald on stimulus. And if you heard it, You basically couldn't follow it because they weren't being very clear. They weren't talking about numbers. They weren't talking about you. They were talking about governors and states and cities and counties. They weren't talking about you. And then ultimately, as you sat there, like, okay, I'm unemployed. I need unemployment assistance. I know what UI is. I know what PUA is. Mr. President, do you know what it is? Mr. Biden, do you know what it is? Because you're not talking to me about those issues. You're not talking to me about my stimulus check. Why aren't you addressing the issues that I need to know who to decide who to vote for? Because ultimately, if I'm a senior on SSDI, SSI, or Social Security, are you cutting my Social Security benefits? Will there be Social Security for me in the next 4 years? And then what are you doing with my hazard pay? And then what are you doing with my stimulus check? And I'm a senior that did not get a first stimulus check because I'm a dependent on someone else's tax return. Will I get a stimulus check this time around? It seems so obvious. I mean, it's sort of once you sort of want to go back to the day in which you had Stephanopoulos and Jim Carville in the room trying to do the Clinton campaign and saying, "Listen, folks, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. Focus on the economy and focus on how much money you're going to put into the economy and put in the hands of the American people. Stop talking about everything else. Just talk about the economy." And that's what Trump needs to be doing, but not talking, giving the money. And this would ultimately be the October surprise. The question is whether the president's going to grab that and grasp that reality in these final days of the election. It appears going into last night's debate, and it appears by his performance in the debate and the reaction after the debate, that the president has certainly started to get on message. He was prepared to talk about stimulus. He was prepared to talk about why the bill has not been passed. But he was not prepared to explain to you why he has not done something to get you stimulus. Blaming may not be the route to get someone reelected. And executive orders is the way to get over that. The president can do it. He's done it with FEMA. He's done it with LWA. He can do it again. He has the money, $800 billion. He has the time. He has the time to announce it today and send them out. And he has the amount of money. It would amount to $4,000 with some extra money left for LWA or another round of FPUC. It's categorically incredible. It's categorically needed right now. Let me go over some incredible questions from last night. Frank L., vote them all out. Jamie, no stimulus, no votes. Phyllis, the damage is already done. JD Wolf, the damage is already done. Said the same thing as the other person. Cindy Miller, in the middle of the pandemic, they have to play games. David G. Ben Jerigan, he has no choice. It's where Pelosi wants him to be. Shalia, close only counts in the horse's shoes. Rosetta, yeah, she's been stalling for months. Kimberly, the president needs to be the boss. Lionel, the U.S. is the laughing stock. Michael, people got to be stupid to put Nancy back in office. Ted Williams, we need every politician to have their paychecks cut. Jay Ranovich, I work with the people who I don't like, but I still get my job done. I could have never gotten away with not doing work for months on end and still have a job. I would have been fired a long time ago. Vote these people out. Tom Watson. Oh, hey, Tom. Tom Watson was a viewer early in this channel, an OG, who was actually subject of an entire video on this channel, who I covered with EIDL alone. I haven't voted yet ain't going to until I see who really cares about his people. It's your corner, better hurry or next year. It won't be pretty for any of us. God bless too, who's homeless, hungry. Good night. Thank you. Tony Ferraro, at this point, even if I sent a $5,000 stimulus check, I'm still voting them all out. Lionel, oh my God, if he does a stimulus, he should give thousands to everyone. Just let it be done. Doreen White, I've given up. If there's no money before the election by the end of this week, I'm done. My savings are zero. Jeremiah, or they have all failed their jobs. W. Barden, who is blowing smoke? How can the economic growth be as good considering so many businesses are shut down and nobody has any money? That's the K-shaped recovery. Rich people gain richer, poor people gain poorer. Mike Mayes, every time there are deadlines, they just come up and extend them. They don't care. The bills are paid for and they eat good. Amen. Coming up this afternoon at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time is Afternoons LALATE, with condensed programming with the videos appearing closer together, which you apparently really like and I like as well. So go to the Funds channel, subscribe. Make sure that you hit the alert button so you get an alert when a new video goes live. Drop your comments below on who you thought won the debate. I'd love to hear your comments and what you think should be done between now and election night. Tell me what you think should be done and how it should be done and how much. Also like this video. Coming up next, of course, is Afternoons LA. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay FLA for more.